You're not a victim, you're a mirror. Why do you keep ending up with people who hurt you, drain you, or make you feel invisible? It's not just bad luck. And no, it's not because you're too nice. The truth cuts deeper. They're drawn to your shadow, not the version of you that shows up on dates or texts politely. I mean the part you don't even admit to yourself. The envy you suppress, the anger you bottle, the need to control, to please, to be needed. Jung called this the shadow, the unconscious side of your personality that you disown but still carry. And here's the twist. You attract people who mirror it back to you. Ever notice how the more you try to be the good one, the more toxic people seem to latch on? That's not coincidence, it's compensation. Your psyche is trying to balance the image you've crafted by pulling in people who expose what you've buried. The narcissist doesn't just use you. They reflect your fear of being selfish. The emotionally unavailable partner, they echo your own avoidance of intimacy. You think you're just unlucky in love. But what if you're unknowingly rehearsing the same emotional story again and again until you finally see it? This isn't about blame, it's about power. You're not a victim, you're a mirror. And until you face what's in that mirror, you'll keep drawing the same reflection in new disguises. So the question isn't, why do they keep showing up? The real question is, what are they trying to show you? Next, we'll go deeper into the disconnect between who you think you are and what your relationships reveal instead. Society teaches you to perform, not see. Look around. Everything's a performance. Social media, job interviews, even dating. It's all about curating the most likable, polished version of yourself. You've been trained to think connection comes from being appealing, agreeable, safe. But here's the problem. When you're constantly performing, you stop seeing. Not just others, but yourself. You smile when you're frustrated. You nod when you disagree. You shrink parts of your personality just to fit. And the world rewards you for it. Likes, validation, opportunities. But underneath, you start to lose track of what's real and what's just rehearsal. And that's exactly where things go sideways in your relationships. You end up attracting people who don't see you. They see your projection. The version of you that hides anger, avoids conflict, plays small. And guess who's magnetized to that? Manipulators. Emotionally unavailable people. Users. They're not connecting with your truth. They're feeding off your mask. Carl Jung warned us. The persona is a system of behavior that is adopted in response to the demands of society. It's a necessary mask. But if you forget it's a mask, you'll confuse applause for intimacy. And that confusion is dangerous. So if your relationships feel hollow or one-sided, maybe it's not about who you're attracting. Maybe it's about who you're pretending to be. Next, we'll break down how the nice persona becomes a trap and why the shadow always leaks through. History repeats because the psyche does. History doesn't just repeat because people forget, it repeats because the psyche doesn't change. As long as we deny the darker parts of human nature, we're doomed to reenact them again and again. Not just personally, but collectively. Look at every fallen leader who started out beloved. The revolutionaries who fought for justice, then became tyrants. The celebrity scandals that shock us until we realize they were obvious in hindsight. From Julius Caesar to modern CEOs, the pattern holds. Charisma without self-awareness becomes corruption. Charm without shadow work breeds betrayal. And it's not just them, it's us. Think about how people fall for narcissists. Not just in love, but in politics, in business, in everyday life. We gravitate toward bold, confident personas because they reflect the power we suppress in ourselves. We want someone to take charge, to make us feel chosen, to rescue us from our own uncertainty. But when we give away that responsibility, we become dependent, vulnerable, manipulatable. Jung wrote that whatever is rejected from the self appears in the world as an event. In other words, what you refuse to own in yourself will show up in your life as drama or disaster. Why do people keep choosing leaders who betray them? Why do you keep choosing partners who drain you? It's the same answer. Unacknowledged darkness attracts trouble. Not because you want pain, but because your psyche is trying to resolve the wound. Until you stop running from your shadow, history will keep rerunning the same story, with different names, different faces, and the same ending. Up next, we'll talk about how to finally see that pattern in yourself before it plays out again. Jung's shadow, what you refuse, controls you. Carl Jung didn't believe the darkest parts of you disappear when you suppress them. He believed they wait, hidden, silent, but very much alive. He called this part of the psyche the shadow, everything you deny, reject, or feel ashamed of. And here's the thing, just because you shove it down doesn't mean it goes away. Rage, envy, neediness, arrogance. If you don't own them, they'll find their way into your life anyway, not through your actions, but through your relationships. Ever wonder why you keep ending up with selfish people when you pride yourself on being selfless? Or why you attract partners who explode while you stay calm? That's not random. That's your shadow, outsourcing its expression. The parts you've exiled are showing up in others, acting out what you refuse to feel. Jung warned, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate. That's not poetry, that's psychology. You think you're choosing the wrong people, but in a strange way, they're choosing you. They're drawn to the emotional energy you repress. You hate confrontation, so you attract the explosive. You hide your ambition, so you draw in the controlling. You fear neediness, so you find someone who makes you feel like you're always too much, or never enough. If you want real change, you can't just pick better. You have to get closer to the parts of yourself you've spent years trying to outrun. Next, we'll explore how the shadow isn't your enemy, but the doorway to real strength and self-possession. You call it bad luck. It's your shadow. You say you've just had bad luck with people, that it keeps happening to you. But let's be honest. How many times does the same story need to play out before it stops being coincidence? This isn't about blame. It's about awareness. Because what you keep calling wrong people might not be random at all. They might be archetypes your psyche keeps drawing in to show you what you're not facing in yourself. The manipulator, the avoidant, the emotionally cold. They're not punishments, they're messages from you. Carl Jung believed the unconscious doesn't speak in words, it speaks in patterns. And when those patterns repeat, especially in your relationships, they're not there to hurt you, they're there to wake you up. The universe isn't cruel, it's precise. It brings people into your life who reflect what you've buried. Not to break you, but to show you where you're already broken. You attract abandonment when you still fear being left. You attract control when you haven't claimed your own power. So no, it's not just bad luck. It's your shadow knocking again and again until you open the door Coming up, we'll reframe the idea of bad relationships as a kind of initiation, the discomfort that forces you to evolve. They don't manipulate you, they read you. Most manipulators don't need to lie to you, not at first. They just read you, like a script. They watch how quickly you smile to smooth over tension. They notice how you avoid conflict, how your voice softens when you disagree, how fast you rush in to prove you're not difficult. And they think, gotcha. Because people like that don't need superpowers, they just need to sense what you've buried. Your need to be liked, your fear of being alone, your hunger for validation. They don't manipulate your strengths, they exploit your wounds. Narcissists especially have a kind of radar, not for love, for leverage, and it's usually not random. They're drawn to people with unintegrated personas, those who are performing goodness instead of embodying truth. You think you're being kind. They see someone afraid to set boundaries. You call yourself loyal. They see someone who won't walk away, even when it's toxic. Jung understood this dynamic well. The more you hide from your own shadow, the more power others have over you. Because when you refuse to confront your neediness, you'll fall for whoever promises certainty. When you deny your anger, you'll excuse theirs. When you suppress your hunger for power, you'll serve those who flaunt it. So no, they don't trick you, they mirror you, they feed your ego while bypassing your intuition. And by the time you realize what's happening, you're already deep in the pattern. Next, we'll look at how to stop being so easy to read by becoming harder to control. Radical self-honesty is the first defense. Want to stop attracting the wrong people? It starts with one uncomfortable move, radical self-honesty. Not the curated kind where you admit to being too nice or a perfectionist. Real honesty, the kind that stings. Ask yourself, what am I pretending not to feel? What parts of me do I judge in others, but secretly carry? Jung didn't offer quick fixes. He offered tools for depth. Shadow work means turning inward, not for self-blame, but for self-integration. Start with your dreams. Jung believed the unconscious speaks in images, not logic. That recurring nightmare? It might be your repressed rage, begging to be seen. Try journaling them, not to interpret, but to listen. Then there's active imagination. Sit with an uncomfortable emotion, give it a voice, let it speak. Sound weird? Maybe. But the parts of you you've silenced are the ones running the show in secret. And once you start naming your shadow, something shifts. You become harder to manipulate, clearer in your boundaries, less reactive to charm, guilt, or pressure, because you're no longer outsourcing your worth to people who reflect what you refuse to claim. Clarity doesn't just protect you, it transforms who you attract. When you stop hiding from yourself, you stop inviting people who play on your blind spots. Next, we'll reimagine what true strength looks like in relationships. Not perfection, but integration. Stop seeking wholeness in others. You think you're looking for love, but sometimes you're really just looking for yourself in someone else's body. That overwhelming pull you feel toward certain people, it's not always chemistry, it's recognition. On some unconscious level, they carry a piece of you you've disowned. Maybe it's their boldness, their coldness, their emotional distance. You chase them. Not because they're right for you, but because they embody something you haven't made peace with inside yourself. Carl Jung said, "The meeting of two personalities is like the contact of two chemical substances. If there is any reaction, both are transformed. But if you haven't integrated your shadow, You don't transform, you project. You pour your unmet needs, your exiled traits, your inner hunger onto someone else and call it connection. But here's the truth. No one can complete you. No partner, no soulmate, no muse. If you haven't claimed your own fire, you'll keep chasing people who burn you. If you've rejected your power, you'll fall for people who dominate you. So stop searching for wholeness in others. Start reclaiming the parts of you you've been trying to find in their eyes. Next, we'll explore what it means to actually relate from a place of wholeness, not hunger. Where love isn't about filling a void, but sharing a flame. Own the darkness, change the pattern. A woman once told her therapist, "I keep falling for emotionally unavailable men." She expected advice on setting better boundaries or improving her self-esteem. But instead, the therapist asked, "What part of you is emotionally unavailable?" She was furious, but it stuck with her. Months later, after deep shadow work, she saw it. She chose those men because their distance mirrored her own fear of true intimacy. This is the shift when you finally stop asking, "Why do they keep doing this to me?" and start asking, "Why do I keep inviting this in?" That's where the pattern breaks. Not through willpower, through awareness. In recovery circles, they say, "You're only as sick as your secrets." Jung said it differently, but meant the same thing. What you refuse to face controls you. People who've done the work through therapy, journaling, psychedelics, even long nights of honest solitude will tell you, once you see your shadow, it loses its grip. You stop needing chaos to feel alive. You stop chasing intensity and calling it love. It doesn't mean you'll never get triggered. It means you'll catch the story mid-script and say, "Not this time." You'll see the red flags and your own urge to ignore them. And instead of performing goodness or chasing validation, you'll stand in truth. Owning your darkness doesn't make you less lovable. It makes you less easy to fool. And from that clarity, a different kind of relationship becomes possible. In our final section, we'll explore how to connect with others once you've reconnected with yourself. Shadow work is the only way out. If you want to stop attracting the wrong people, boundaries won't cut it. Not really. Because the problem isn't them. It's the parts of you hiding in the shadows. Jung never said healing would be comfortable. He said it would be real. Shadow work isn't about fixing or pretending. It's about facing the parts of yourself you've denied. Anger, jealousy, fear, neediness, and making peace with them. Because until you do, those parts will control your life through the people you attract, the patterns you repeat, the pain you think you can't escape. You don't need another rule to follow. You need to stop running. Look in the mirror. What are you refusing to see? That's the real work. That's the only way out. If you're ready to stop the cycle for good, it starts here. No more hiding. No more hoping, just truth.